Hey, Mrs. Witherell here. I'm going to talk a little bit about the zero factor property. So when you're finding factors or solutions, I'm going to show you two different examples. The zero factor property, it states that if A and B are real numbers, and if A and B are equal to 0, then A equals 0 or B equals 0. These represent factors, your A and B, and it'll make more sense once we start doing it. You need to remember that the same thing as answer. You're finding the answer to the problem. It may say find the solution or find the x-intercept, the zeros, or the roots. So memorize these terms. Very, very, very important. Okay, moving on. So the steps and when you're using your zero factor property. So you're going to make sure that it is in standard form if you are factoring. If you are not factoring and you're solving a radical, then you just get your factors. And I'll show you an example of that. Factor the equation completely, set each factor equal to 0, and solve each equation. Then what we all hate to do, well not me because I like math, you check your solutions because you may have an extraneous solution, which means one of your answers might be false. So let's look at this example. Now this is not factoring, we're going to solve it this time. So remember, to get rid of a square root, we square both sides. And once you square a radical, you're left with a radicand. Now, we're going to solve by factoring now. So we're going to have to get this equation equal to 0. So I'm going to leave my n positive over here. So I'm going to bring my n squared over here. And I'm going to add n to both sides. So I'm going to add an n. And I'm going to subtract a 110 from both sides. Now it is equal to 0. I just wrote it opposite sides of the equal sign. So I have that now. So now I need to factor it. Remember, you're going to have your n. If this sign is negative, you're always going to have a plus and a minus, or a minus and a plus. Factors of 110 that add up to a positive 1. I believe that is 11 and 10. 11 needs to be positive. And now here's where the factor 0 comes in. I'm going to take each one of these factors separately. They're in parentheses already. So n plus 11, and I'm going to make it equal to 0. And solving that, subtracting 11 from both sides, you get negative 11. Then you have n minus 10 equals 0. And solving that, you get a positive 10. So let's do our checks to see if they work. So I'm going to put it back into my original equation there. So I have the square root of 110 minus, and I've got a negative 11 over here, so minus a negative 11 equals 11. So equals my n, my negative 11, excuse me. So when solving this, you get 121 equals negative 11. This is a positive 11, this is a negative 11. So this solution does not work. So 11 cannot be one of our solutions. Let's check for our 10. Square root of 110 minus 10 has to equal 10. 100, the square root of that, and that equals 10. So your answer, and when you're putting this in the Desmos, make sure, and for me, that your answer is in curly brackets. Now, remember the 11 did not work. It was extraneous solution, so the answer is 10. I went ahead and solved this one a little bit to save a bit of time. I have an equation. It is already set equal to 0. I did my two factors, set each of my factors equal to 0. So I have m equals negative 8 and m equals a positive 7. So putting that back into this equation, I'm just going to put my 8 squared up here. 8 squared plus 8 minus 56. Doing the math over here, 64 minus 8 minus 56 gives me 0, so 0 equals 0. So then I'm going to do the same thing with my 7. So putting my 7 up there, I've got a 7 squared plus 7 minus 56, so 49 plus 7 minus 56, 0 equals 0. So the solution to this, and normally we put the smaller number first, but it doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of things. In the curly brackets, that's how you find zeros and making those solutions to your, using the zero factor property.